All right, today's lesson is on using the percent proportion. So go ahead and put today's date in your table of contents and we'll get started. So the percent proportion, you may have seen this before. Here's the technical one. It's part over whole equals percent over 100. And this is going to look really confusing until we get into some of the examples and you can see what type of problems use the percent proportion. Another way to write it, part over whole, maybe you've seen this. It's is over of equals percent over 100. So this is the one, it's kind of the shortcut version. That's the one that we remember and we use with all of these problems. So we basically have an example, we set up a proportion, and then we can solve for the missing piece. So let's look at some examples so you can see what types of problems we're looking at here. All right, so you can see I've got the percent proportion up here in the top right. So we're going to keep referring back to that. And here's two examples of when we would use the percent proportion. First one says 5 is what percent of 8? So in your notes, I know that it's a sentence and we don't always like writing that down, but it's pretty short. So you do want to have this sentence in your notes so that you can look back at it and remember what type of problem we were working with. So we're going to set up our percent proportion. I always start with this bottom right number. See how it's 100? That is always going to be 100. So I know to fill in a 100 there so I don't put any other numbers. And then what we want is the is over the of equals the percent, and then it's already over 100. So we want to figure out what numbers are representing the is, the of, and the percent. So do you see right here where it says 5 is? That means that 5 is the is value. So we're going to put a 5 right where the is goes. So you can see here the is goes on top left, so we're putting a 5. And then if you keep reading the problem, 5 is what percent of 8? So you can see there's an of 8, so the 8 goes in the of position. And then we're going to bring in a variable, and that's the thing that we're missing. It says what percent. We don't know the percent, so we're going to put an x in the percent spot. Now we have a simple proportion set up. The good news is all of these will be simple proportions, so that's kind of nice. We're going to cross multiply. 8 times x is 8x equals 5 times 100 is 500. And now we just have one step to solve for x. We're going to divide both sides by 8. So x equals 62.5. So decimals are okay when you're using the percent proportion. And then what you want to think about is, would we have a label on this 62.5? The only time that you need a label is if you're trying to figure out what the percent is, because the percent label would just be that percent symbol. So it's actually 62.5%. All right, so as long as we know where to put all the numbers, it's pretty easy to solve. It's just the proportions we did yesterday. So let's practice again, setting up our percent proportion. Again, I'm going to put 100 in the bottom. And now let's look at the problem. It says, what percent of 4 is 7? So just a reminder, it's is over of equals percent over 100. So what percent, there's the what, but I'm going to focus on the is and the of first. What percent of 4? So that means 4 is your of. So it's going to go down there in the of position. Is 7, so is, or 7 is your is. So 7 over 4. And then the last thing that we're missing, that's where your x will go, and then you can see it says what percent, so x goes right there. We've got our simple proportion. We will cross multiply 7 times 100 and 4 times x. So 4x equals 700. And then one step to solve, divide both sides by 4. So x equals 175. And then because we were trying to find the percent again, then we just have to make sure we put the percent symbol. If you're not finding the percent, then you don't put a label on any of your answers. So the next video has a few more examples. In this one, we tried to find the percent each time, but you want to look at some other examples to see what does it mean if you're trying to find the is or the of value.